Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We have our panelists here. So I'm going to start with just a quick introduction. My name is Dana Atherton. I'm the VP of Talent Acquisition at Jamf, and I am a white woman with olive skin and medium blonde hair. I am wearing a burgundy floral dress and black shoes today. And you are joining us for an invigorating conversation about a very important topic, empowering inclusivity in the tech workplace. We have gathered a wonderful group of panelists here who are going to give us some insights, best practices, even discuss challenges on how we can foster that inclusive workplace. And we're really excited to have all of these panelists with us. I'm going to throw it over to them so you can meet all of them and let them introduce themselves. We'll start over here on the end with Devereaux.
Hey, hello. My name is Devereaux Williams. I'm an IT manager at Clemson University. I use he, him pronouns, and I am a African-American male wearing a blue sport coat, khakis, and brown shoes.
Hi, everyone. Akash Kamath, Senior Vice President of Engineering here at Jamf. I'm a brown man of Indian origin, 6'1", wearing a blue shirt, dark blue jeans. Happy to be here.
All right, is this working? Yes, it is. Hi, I am so sorry. I'm a little frantic because I felt like I just ran half a mile in heels to get here. But thank you for your patience. Lynn Lam, Chief Information Officer at Jamf. I am a 5'2" Asian American woman with dark hair, wearing some light blue jeans and a striped shirt. And I am very, very happy to be here with each of you. So thank you for giving us a few moments here at JNUC.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hector Ibarran. I am a sales engineer here at Jamf. I am a Hispanic male wearing a gray jacket, khaki pants. I like my sneakers. I think they're cool. They're black sneakers. And my pronouns are he, him.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Denisha Diane. I use she, her pronouns. I am an African-American woman. I am a caramel complexion. I have brown and light brown locks. I'm wearing today a pink jacket with a white top, gold accessories, and blue, pink, light pink, and orange, very bright pants, and blue glasses. And so now that we've done our introductions, let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna start first with inclusion. And so we know from research that about 70% of job seekers will think about diversity and inclusion when evaluating organizations as a potential employer. So this tells us that inclusion and diversity is really important to the workplace. And so I'm gonna start with our panelists with our first question. How has diversity influenced your choice to become part of an organization? And so Hector, I'm gonna kick that question over to you to get us started.
I think that's an interesting question because sometimes inclusion is what allows you to become a part of an organization. I've had experiences where because of my limb differences, I've been discriminated against for job opportunities. And I've been in situations where I haven't been hired for a job because people thought, oh, maybe he's a slow typist or something like that, which is kind of good because I've had the fortune then that my career has built around organizations that have inclusion and diversity as a common core. I worked with my first two jobs in this career were with companies that really just allowed me to be who I am and to be a part of the company. And when I decided to go look for a job at Jamf, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to be a part of Jamf, because of inclusion. So what I have to say to those people who might have not hired me for something, I think it was their loss at the end of the day. And I'm really proud of the work that I've done in the companies that I've been with, and I'm really proud to have made a contribution. So I think it's opened up a lot of doors to have organizations that value diversity.
Thank you. We're gonna popcorn it over to Lynn.
Yeah, so Very, very good question. And I think we should all be thinking about that when selecting where we want to spend our days working, right? Because we spend more time with our coworkers than we do with our families if you look at the amount of hours we spend during the week. I feel as though as I got older and more seasoned in my career, diversity and inclusion in the workplace became much, much higher in priority for me for a couple of reasons. I'm a true believer in you don't build one thing and just expect that it can work for all. So when a company has a very inclusive environment and they prioritize that in their hiring, they're getting a lot of perspectives going into how they operate, how they design their solutions, how they take in feedback to make sure that what they are putting out there in the market is truly working for everyone. We are a global company at Jamf. We cannot pretend that we can make these decisions, sitting here in the United States and it's going to work for everyone around the world. So it was a huge part of my decision making when I came here to Jamf. I was a customer of Jamf's before, and I knew the type of thought that they put into their operations and innovations before they put something out on the market. So that was very important to me. But personally, why it means a lot to me is because I am a very short Asian American female. I have a lot of unconscious bias that comes my way. Oftentimes I walk in a room and people don't realize, oh, she's here as a decision maker. They just kind of assume that I came along oftentimes to take notes or something, right? And that's okay. Like, that's totally fine. Their loss if they thought that way about me. But the older I got and more seasoned I got, I realized that I want to be part of an organization where it's safe for me to share my perspective, right? But beyond it being safe for me to share my perspective, they also valued my perspective too, that they felt that, hey, this makes a difference, we're going to take it to heart. So it's not just the safety to say things, but the sense of value that they want me to say something too. So it played a huge part in me picking this, and and probably later on in my life too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lynn.
Yeah, Danisha, that question made me think of my whole career. And I thought about the first job I got, where fresh out of college, diversity, inclusion really was not on top of my mind. I joined a company that was a small company. It was fairly non-diverse. And I spent a couple of years there, learned a lot. And then I moved on to a global company, much more diverse, a lot of different perspectives. And boy, what did my eyes open. The scales, so to speak, fell off my eyes. It was amazing to see the power of diversity and inclusion. I think once I saw that contrast, I knew that I'm never going to work for a non-diverse company again. That's where, even when I joined Jamf, the first thing I checked for was, is this a true globally diverse, inclusive company? I think very often we sometimes think that diversity, inclusion for a company is the right thing to do for moral reasons, but very often I think it goes well beyond that. Yes, it is right for moral reasons, but it is right for the business reasons too. If you really want to know your customers, you need to be diverse. I think there are plenty of studies now that have proven that well beyond doubt.
Yeah, so for me, my whole career, I've been at Clemson University. So, Clemson is a PWI institution. So, me just thinking about me being there in undergrad, I knew what I was getting myself into, but I don't let that dictate my purpose. So I allow, instead of me seeing that as being a problem per se, I like to be part of the solution. So for me, just being part of university, I always try to just galvanize, I don't see color, I see individuals. And, one of the things I think is powerful is being able to look at when you bring people into the organization, everybody has this, skill set, whatnot. But yet the way I think it should be going about it is the mindset, being able to have that mindset, have inclusive, being inclusive, being diverse, just having that mindset. I think it's going to definitely be beneficial, not only just for the organization, but your coworkers, your colleagues, students, faculty, administration, and then goes into to the community. So I think that's very valuable.
I'm loving this opening, and there's so many aspects of what you all have stated that resonate with me. I'm sure they resonate with all of you as well. I thank you, just getting this conversation started. And so, Akash, I'm gonna double click on you really quickly. And so, you talked about, your own journey and just understanding, at the very beginning, the importance of inclusion in the workplaces that you are in. Can you provide an example of how diversity, equity, and inclusion, diversity of thought or perspective has, within a tech team, has really led to a breakthrough that may not have been available, or innovation that may not have been available if you were in a more homogenous group?
Yeah, like I said, Danisha, in the earlier question, the scales fell off my eyes when I joined the global organization. There are so many examples I can offer here.
Yeah.
I'll start with the one main example I can think of right now. That's really around more cultural diversity. So in one of my previous roles, we were designing a digital application that needed to be supported for all the different markets that the company served, which was more than 50 countries. So obviously, as an architect, our initial reaction was, let's build this once and make it available for all. It'll save the company money. It's the right thing to do. And we had a global design team that matched all the company's colors, designs, themes. And sure enough, we got customer feedback in the US and got great feedback. It was ready to go. We then went to our second biggest market, which was Japan. And it was a complete flop there. Again, that's where we started learning until we got Japanese design experts, where they showed us that colors that mean bad, warning to us, like red colors, actually mean something positive in Japan, right? So you want to use those kind of things when you build your systems there. Not just that, the typography is different. How they design their applications, they are different. How they consume content is different. Those are things that go well beyond an engineering or a technical solution. It goes into the thinking, the psyche, the culture of an organization. The only way we could be successful there was with a diverse design team, which is what we ended up doing.
I love that. It's just a reminder of ensuring that we are bringing in multiple perspectives, right, to get that diversity of thought to make our products and services, or even the work that we're doing, even better. Yep. So thank you for that. So Devereux, I'm going to kick this over to you next. And so you come with a unique perspective as a classroom technologist supporting technology in the classrooms. And so can you share an example of how you have made your technology classrooms more inclusive and accessible, especially to those students from underrepresented or diverse backgrounds, as well as different abilities as well?
Yeah, sure. Great question. So for us, at Clemson, we have this great group for Academic Success Center. It's definitely a group that actually caters to those needs as far as disability, student aid and whatnot. As long as the student, whether it's undergrad or graduate, registers and document their disability, we have a plethora of resources that we cater to, anything from text-to-speech software to having, assistance as far as having a student getting around campus and whatnot. We try to utilize any and all resources as far as technology is concerned when it comes to, just cater to them. Because, at the end of the day, we can be in compliance, with the federal law, but yet, we care about our students. So we always try to be there, go out the extra mile, make sure that they have the best experience. And, just to add, we recently came out with our strategic plan for Clemson, which is called Clemson Elevate. And one of the pillars for that is providing a #1 student experience. So that's basically what we're all about, just trying to be able to give the students the tools and necessary that they need to be able to be successful, for the future.
Perfect. Thank you. So that really leads us into the personal anecdotes. And so we know, and again, this probably will resonate with all of you, if you think about all of your journeys into your respective careers. But we know that the journey into technology can encompass a variety of routes and trajectories, right? And so as you reflect on your own journey, or the journey that many individuals take to enter the technology field, can you share a personal story or an anecdote that highlights the importance of diversity in technologies, either, again, from your own experience or maybe something that you might have witnessed? And so I am going to start with you, Lynn.
Great. I don't have metrics with me at all, but I have eyeballs. And I'm looking at JNUC this year, and there are more women this year than last year. And Amy's nodding. She probably has some metrics. So I am so proud of that, first and foremost. Very scientific eyeballs here. But when it comes to women in tech and minorities in tech, I'm 20 plus years into my career now, and during the pandemic, we were all working on Zoom. And my kids, I live in California, and our schools were shut down for almost 2 years there. And I had at the time, a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they were on me all the time. And we were going through a very big deal in my last job. And I remember listening to my daughter do an introduction with class and talking to her friends on Zoom. And they were like, yeah, you know, what grade, how old are you? And what do your parents do? And when it got to her, she said, my name is Charlotte, and you know, my dad does this, and my mom works with a lot of men. And I thought, what did she say? And later I asked her, what do you mean? She goes, every time I see you on the screen, it's you and a lot of men, Mommy. Like, what do you do? And so then I realized, yeah, you know, there's something to this representation thing, because if she's that young and she sees that, that's not great. So I'm trying to explain to her what I do. I work in tech. And then fast forward, last year, she became really, really interested in robotics. So I don't know if any of you have kids, but Vex Robotics, Vex IQ, that's what she does. And so she said, hey, I want to take this class. I'm like, cool. One night a week, I can totally spare that for you. She joined an all-girls team and consumed our lives. I mean, like, almost every evening. Weekends, like, you name it. I felt like I was a full-time robotics coach, and we dug deep. I mean, I was reading code. I'm like, Mommy has not coded in a very long time, but, you know, let's do this. And we show up to these competitions, and 95% of the teams are boys. And they're these little all-girls teams. We would go to practice competitions, and these 4 little girls, you know, 4th and 5th and 6th graders would come out, and they would put their bot down, and these boys would come over and say, you guys drive so slow, get off the field. And these little girls would start picking up their bots and, you know, just kind of walk off. And I said, no, you walk back there. And I told those boys, and I was the crazy mom, I picked up their bot, and I said, these girls have been waiting in line. They deserve a turn. If you have nothing productive to say, go stand over there. So the girls got their shot. And as I was reviewing their code, they didn't want to share their code because they felt like it was not perfect, which is a very common thing for girls. But when I spent time with them going through their code, I realized it's quality code. They just had some bugs, but they were just afraid to showcase it, right? So, you know, moving forward, last year was their first season. They made it to the U.S. Championships, so we were in Iowa for that. They did really well. And then beyond that, they made it all the way to World Championships, which was my first time in Texas just a few months ago in Dallas, where they competed with 700 other teams from all over the world. And I remember seeing these little girls work with a team from Morocco. And these boys were like just so much taller, and they were there, and it was our little girls with the notepad sketching out the strategy they were going to use for it, right? And why I bring all of this up is there's something to equity. Just because you provide the same opportunity to all groups, that's not equity, right? Because the same opportunities were given to boys and girls, yet the girls, had those boys just kept bullying them and no one stood up for them, they probably would have shied away. What if that was their one taste and judgment of tech? What if that turned them off? Women in Tech starts with girls' interests in tech, sciences, very, very early on. equity for these girls meant we just need to spend a little bit more time with them, have a different approach in how we taught them, spend a little bit more time with them on their coding, right? These girls did really, really well at Worlds. They ranked in like the 30-something rank out of like 700 teams. They could have just totally turned themselves off from it very early on had we not stepped in. So I think about that a lot. Equity means what do we need to provide to all groups to make sure that they can even get to that level playing field in the first place. So yeah, just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. We're going to go to Akash next.
So my anecdote is not about me, but it is something I observed while I was growing up, and something that I learned from it. And it's a very similar theme to what Lynn said, but in a different context. So as you can probably tell from my accent, I grew up in India. So in India, you can have a medium of instruction in different languages. So I grew up learning English right from the first grade, but many of my fellow friends had medium of instruction in a different language. There is a problem in India when it comes to higher education. By the time you get to the university level, there's only one language, it's English. So I had friends who came from different mediums of instruction that when they came into a university where they had learned English as a second language, all of a sudden they were struggling with all these technical terms in electrical engineering. So how they had to cope, I saw the efforts they had to put in. It felt like they had to put in 100 times more effort just to reach the same level that we could easily get to. And that not only showed me the effort, the appreciation for what they put in, I saw how successful they became later. So now what I took away from that is, even when I work, if somebody is not articulating what they are thinking in a conference or in a group meeting, don't just assume they don't have anything to say, or don't just assume they don't have any ideas. There might be different ways that they will express. Everyone has great ideas. It's how you get that out of them that may change. So that's it's kind of like Lynn's example, where girls might shy away if you don't really encourage them. It's the same even in the workplace that I've observed. A lot of people can shy away if you don't encourage that they have ideas too. So that's my anecdote.
Yeah, so for me, my anecdote is about me. So, for me, just thinking back on my college time, freshman year was crazy. First semester, played around and got on academic probation. Just right out the gate. It's just it was an eye-opening experience, whatnot. But long story short, it took me 5 years to graduate, whatnot. And at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to work in tech, just didn't know what aspect. So, I had a work-study, gig, job for like 4 years, and she got wind of that I didn't have a job lined up. So she was like, "Hey, let me try to do some stuff." And long story short, there was a student job, that was available in the College of Ed, and making $8 an hour. This is 2004, $8 an hour, and she was like, "You can take it if you want." I'm like, "Sure, I'll take it." And I to this day, God rest her soul, but I appreciate her giving me the opportunity to be in tech, because I was able to craft my skills, realize this is what I wanted to do. Long story short, I did that in 2 years for being a temp, and got my first full-time job, there. Did that for 12 years, perfecting my craft even more. And I got out of a situation where, I got passed over for being able to be a manager. At a certain point, even when my boss retired, I'm thinking like, oh, it's going to be simple. It makes sense, whatever. But I didn't get the opportunity. So at that point, I realized, hey, it's not. I try to be the team player. Now I have to look out for me. So luckily, this job came up in marketing communications, and it's probably second best decision I made in my career. So I just choose to be persistent, be intentional about your actions, and everything will come out good.
Thank you. Hector, bring us home.
So for me, I think I've talked about this one before, but seeing a lot of the accessibility features that I could use with Apple products. One of my first jobs, it wasn't really a tech job, but I ended up sort of being an informal technology person. Was working with students with different needs, and the technology that we had at that time in the school district just didn't meet those needs. So I started talking to a lot of the faculty about Apple products. Even back then, I was very passionate about them. And so they started bringing some of the kids, and they would be like, "Oh yeah, Hector can talk to you about those weird California computers." That was back before the iPhone, and little by little I discovered all the things that you can do with Apple products. But I think the biggest lesson I learned recently when I had a conversation with somebody at Apple, and we were talking about where some of the cool features that you see on the products come from, and they really come from accessibility. For example, I'm gonna have to hold my microphone here. In the Apple Watch, you have this thing that you can do right now, which is pretty cool, right? It started as an accessibility feature. You can look at the cursor on the iPad. That was an accessibility feature first. And so that's why inclusion is important, because it's not just for the people who need it at the time. It's really for everyone. Look at the sidewalks. Use the curb. That's there for people on wheelchairs. But I can get there on my little scooter that I rented or something like that. So making those changes really helps everyone, and that's where inclusion is important from a business sense. It's morally right, but it's also right to give access to everyone.
There are so many aspects of your stories that really resonate with me. So Len, I think about my own mother. I went to a computer-focused magnet school in the inner city. Although I didn't live in the inner city, I was bused in. And I just remember, my mother really taking those extra steps to make sure that I went above and beyond. Our family motto is, you have to do better than me. And it's not, seen as a negative, but my grandmother said it to my mother said it to me, I say it to my children. Right? And so I just really appreciate the vulnerability of your own stories, because it really resonated with me. I'm sure it resonated with you. And thinking about your own journeys and how you got to where you are today, and who the people who are that have helped you, but also some of that internal grit and resilience that you've had to pull in order to help you and continue to help you to thrive and strive in the workplace. And so we're coming to the conclusion of the first portion of our conversation today. Lynn, I'm going to start with you again. Or actually, Lynn, I'm going to have you close us out so that we can move to the next portion. As you think about, what are the actions that this audience can take today in order to, support or lead inclusion within their own workplaces, what can they do?
Thank you. Yeah, so first off, being here at a tech conference, taking time out of your agenda, seeing, hey, what's this diversity inclusion thing? Just giving some time to hear a little bit more about it, having the conversation, that's how it starts. Being curious about it, wanting to engage. You can, here at Jamf, and I see quite a few faces here, we have a diversity, equity, and inclusion booth in the Expo Center, so please go and meet some of our employee resource group leaders and learn about what we do. But you can see it's a focus for us. It's important enough for us to showcase it to our customers. Get involved in your own organizations. And if you don't have those types of things, get curious about it, right? Start the conversations within your organizations about it, because it does not happen unless you have curious employees asking questions and kind of poking it a little bit to get it going. Work with your people in HR organizations from a recruiting standpoint. So if you are in a position where you can influence the type of coworkers you have, or you're a hiring manager yourself, or if you're part of an interview panel, it's okay to ask, hey, why don't we have a more diverse set of candidates that we're interviewing? Or what was our recruiting approach? Like, did we only recruit from a certain geography, right? Or if you're only getting, a certain type of demographic, it's okay to say, hey, did we open it up for like university recruiting, right? Do we want to get some fresh perspectives in of, a different demographic as well? I can't even say that I know how to design something that's something my daughter would like, right? So you want to make sure that you have that diverse perspective too. But I really think it comes back to being curious and being open and brave enough to having that conversation, because if you don't do it, then it goes back to what I said I look for in an organization. You will not have a safe environment where people are willing to also speak up as well.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay, yes. That was awesome. I was just going to add to just being in charge of hiring. That
See, I'm influencing here, right?
influencing.
Okay.
So love what you were saying. That we're really trying to, in order to widen the aperture, it's looking at skills, right? So skills-based hiring. That's how you actually are able to get people from different industries, different geographics, different, underrepresented talent, different demographics. When you're really focusing on the skills. So we have time for probably one question.
Okay.
And we've had a few come through. And actually, one of them that I was going to choose, you actually pretty much answered there, Lynn, with just some suggestions for companies that might have a lack of a presence, how you would go about, as you said, poking and asking questions. So I'm going to go with a different one here that in a time where affirmative action is being removed and DEIB leaders and departments might be reducing budgets or, potentially even, taking some of that down, what do you feel the most important way is that we can keep making intentional changes when it feels like we're going possibly against the tide?
Yeah, I can start with that one. So, one of the things that you and we laugh about all the time, but it really isn't a laughing matter. It really is about, really shepherding that employee experience. That's free, right? And we all have a role in helping to support the experience of all employees. So I would say that's probably one of the first things that we can do. We do understand, like many organizations, I have lots of friends who are in this space with me leading DEI, and I know right now many of them are in hiring conservative environments, right, where they may not be doing a lot of hiring. But what they're doing instead is, again, really focusing on that experience of the employee and really ensuring that when it is time for us to, for organizations to begin rehiring, do they have the right environment in which newcomers are going to want to stay within their organization? And so, my friends and I who are in this space, we talk a lot about, sometimes organizations think the first thing we need to do in order to drive diversity, equity, and inclusion is really to ramp up our hiring. But actually the second. The first is to ensure that your environment is conducive to where employees actually want to stay with you, right? So one of my really good friends is in, I'm not gonna say what firm, but she's in legal. She's in a law firm, and they went through an exercise where they had hired like 200 or so associates, and within 3 to 6 months, they had a good portion of those associates start exiting the organization because the environment wasn't right. So I would say that's one of the first things. Again, environment. The second is going back to something that Lynn stated regarding the employee resource groups. Our employee resource groups at Jamf are absolutely amazing. We have a number of them represented here. And really looking at your employee resource groups in partnership to say, what are the things that we can do to support the organizational culture, the culture of inclusion and belonging, as well as that employee experience as well. I offer the panel if there's any other suggestions anyone would like to add.
I'm just going to say something I learned actually during this experience here with you talking. Defining what diversity is really important, right? We have a tendency to think of diversity, particularly in the United States, as minorities or one characteristic. But I learned from Donisha, there's this circle, concentric circles of diversity, where there are many levels. And what's interesting about it is, looking at those circles, we are all a part of it, right? We all have a diversity point that we can identify and connect with other people. For example, I'm looking around here, a lot of us are wearing glasses. We don't consider that a disability anymore, but at some point it would have been really debilitating not to be able to see. But we take it for granted. So that's one of those points of diversity. So for me, seeing that everybody in this room has diversity in some way, and that everybody's a unique configuration of those factors, really kind of opened up my eyes to seeing how we can connect and understand each other a little bit better.
I love that. It's the diversity wheel, and it really has allowed us to expand the conversation on how we talk about diversity with using the 4 concentric circles. So one of the things that we have done at Jamf in terms of formalizing our strategy, we've been driving diversity for some time through our ERGs, our executive leaders. We've been really, progressing in terms of actions and programming and just thinking about how we want to drive diversity. But one of the things that we've also done was to take a step back and say, how do we actually define diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging? And part of that allowed us to engage more individuals who typically wouldn't see themselves, as you've stated, Hector, as a diverse individual, right? And so for us, diversity means everyone, because we all have aspects of ourselves, whether it's where we grew up, our backgrounds, the education, our economic status. There's like 20-something, 30-something attributes that really help us to define our own diversity.
Awesome. That was great. Okay, well, I think we're going to wrap up here. We could probably talk for hours about this, and this is a continuous journey, so we want to, just continue to have the conversations. That's what's important. And please, as Lynn said, stop by the booth, and we will have both Denisha and I there this afternoon later, and Hector, and some of our ERG members. So thank you so much for being here, and all of our panelists. Thank you. Yes.
Really quickly, can we just ask our ERG leaders and ERG members just to stand up really quickly?
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I just want to thank you all. They've been amazing at Jamf, and so just want to thank you all for your continued dedication. We appreciate you.
Wonderful. Thank you to all the panelists for all your wonderful insights.